The lead space fighter Shadow 1 scans the wreckage of a 4-mile-long transport ship, 6 other fighters keeping a 500-meter perimeter. "First one's here," says Jane as she runs a hand through her medium-length red hair, then adjusts her black leather jacket over her black shirt. Her dark-toned surplus army pants matching her craft's paint scheme. "Didn't think we'd get first dibs, but I guess nobody else wanted to fly all the way out here," she says, circling the large ship. Shadow 2 asks, "Any signs of life, Captain?" She shakes her head. "No, and there's only 10 out of 1100 life pods jettisoned, no signs of organic life." She must have drifted a long ways since her last signal to home base 101 years ago. Blaze asks, "Are we searching the wreckage?" "No, Shadow 2, let's just send out the D-bots," she says. "Why send out the D-bots? We got 6 ships and crews," he says, annoyed. Jane frowns. "Not this time, Shadow 2, the ship's atmosphere is -14 psi and there's no power." "So?" he asks. Elaine in Shadow 3 comes over the radio. "Blaze, that's almost equal to the vacuum of space. We don't have enough air to make it to the cargo hold and back without any power." Jane smirks. "Besides, demo bots are already on the way. They'll cut through the hull and bring what they find. We're keeping our ships here while they scan the interior, that's final, honey," she says, closing the channel. Blaze opens a private line. "You know, if we can get it powered up and back to Earth. The Titan could go for top dollar, but not if we cut into it," he says, bringing up a valid point. She chuckles. "And possibly die in the next few minutes." "Not happening," she says, continuing to inspect the vessel. The bots make their way to the large ship's thinnest part and begin making cuts into the side of the hull with high-energy plasma cutters. It takes longer than expected as the ship seems to be made of an unknown heat-resistant material. A few minutes into cutting a hole, communications from the Titan crackle in their craft's radios. A female voice coming through their speakers. "Warning, unidentified crafts attempting to make entry. System failure imminent." Jane looks at the others in her heads-up display, something on their quantum scanners, but all any visual camera picks up is empty space. Suddenly the stars dim as every ship's energy core shuts down, light from self-powered instruments stifled. Looking out of her modified fighter, a dark haze materializes, eating light around them. Though she sees the others, the stars and galaxies are snuffed away. Cracks appear on her canopy and she rushes to put her spacesuit on, then starts going through core restart procedures. As quickly as the strange occurrence had appeared, it is gone. Her ship's engines go full power without warning as they malfunction. Her ship scraping along the Titan's massive side. The others dealing with a similar engine issue as she notices that the Titan's engines are firing as well. Pulling away from the hull as she regains control, aligning herself with the massive ship's energy field as the others do the same, unable to escape the cargo ship's massive warp field. The 7 fighters' warp drives activate and sync with the Titan's energy signature. Blaze swallows nervously. A ship this size, even if we match its field, it might still rip our ships to pieces. I've never seen crafts like ours piggyback in a warp with a ship this large. We might not have the energy for it, he thinks to himself. Jane watches in awe as the stars stretch and warp, creating a tunnel through space. She loses sight of the other ships in the ever-stretching hole. Quantum scanners overlay an image of the Titan's main warp shell as it engulfs them. Jane calms herself, then makes contact with them on a secure channel. This jump data can't be right. The universe is only 186 billion light-years across. 93 billion in radius from Earth, and we are about to jump 200 billion light-years from the Milky Way. I don't even know if our ships can handle it. No ship in history has ever jumped this far, she says. The energy bubble passes over her ship and she feels the atoms vibrating to the point of hurting. Then her ship's field adjusts and the effects almost vanish. The bubble finishes enveloping the ships and everything vanishes as the warp tunnel surrounds them and a massive acceleration is felt. The 7 modified fighters and the ghost ship Titan appear 190 billion light-years outside of the expanding universe and into the unknown to science. Jane scans the featureless screens and opens the radiation shielding to the front view window. Blaze connects with her mind. No radiation, no gravity fields, no vacuum of space. It's like we're flying in absolute nothing. Like only our crafts exist out here. Looking at her radar, the 6 other ships travel in loose formation, looking unharmed. You know how dumb that sounds. I mean, there has to be space out here. I see you all just fine. He chuckles. Maybe the Titan's energy field is keeping us in touch. Ever since we arrived, my core has been using 40% more power than when we cruise at 100 light years per second. Like something's drawing power away, he says, maneuvering closer. Wherever we are, there is nothing out there except the expanding universe. He tells her. Jane adjusts her quantum comms and sends out a general hail. At first it's static, then a mix of voices. Beacon activated. Hit status. Human life signs. Warp bubble. Separated. Jane, your signal is very bad. Turn 30 degrees to starboard. Adjust gain. Copy that, Jane. Everyone says, talking at once. She hits the auto formation and the 6 other ships move to float close by in a ring within visual sight of each other's faces. Only lights from their ships shining but stifled. Blaze comes over the comms. Jane, even our light, the light from our ships. It's losing energy like crazy. The AI saying, it's as if it's redshifted by over 1 million light years in just 20 feet. He says, confused. Looking around at the space outside of the universe, Jane sees featureless nothing. Hey Jane, check this out. One of the ship's pilots says as a massive wall of energy approaches. Time till subatomic particle and matter explosion impact, 24 hours. Chance of survival 1%. No acceleration away from the wall is not possible despite engines functioning properly. The ship's AI informs Jane. She radios the others who seem set on finding out what caused the Titan to go into warp, taking them with it. Jane begins to think that this could be it for her. Her ship is fully equipped for long-range hauling jobs, but no more so than the other 6. The crew of each ship are made up of people with their own opinions and way of thinking, complicating the situation. During a heated debate, Jane's husband Blaze gets annoyed and chimes in. If we figure out what caused it, maybe we could get back to Earth. Jane sighs. Yeah, we should investigate first, then decide on a plan of action, she says, partly relieved. Just then another crew member comes over the radio. We don't have time for that. One of the crew members calls over the comms, sounding angry and scared. The other ships fall silent as everyone listens to Jack continue.
Okay, let's go.
We don't have time for that. We need to get home now. I'm warping back even if it takes months, he says as his warp drive begins to glow. No one in the crew has ever seen a warp ship undergo stress or failure resulting fallout of hyperspace. Until Jack tried to warp, in what only became visible, giving a radar return as whatever the medium is, scattered the light of his light-years-long trail of subatomic particles. His ship disintegrating as he exits the Titan's invisible energy field. The medium swirls and flows, rippling the light as if underwater and disturbed, sensors picking up the surrounding space seeming to absorb the energy. Just before, a flash whites out every sensor and camera, nearly blinding everyone through closed and covered eyes. The sensors showing the energy returning to nothingness as the ebbs and flows disappear from them. Nothingness, moving as water to stifle and convert unprotected matter to itself. Thrusters not responding. Jane can make out a man's voice yelling over the comms but sounds distant, almost ghostly. Jack, what happened? Jane cries out as all the ships can be seen flickering and glitching from position to a few hundred meters away on radar. A spectral replay of Jack's warp attempt appears and darts off, then returns going backwards, then vanishes. Jane shakes her head. What the hell is happening? She says to herself. Static is heard over the comms after a canopy can be heard exploding, then cutting off as it sounds like water rushing in. Why did everyone move? Jane asks through the quantum radio. We didn't, our thrusters have been off the whole time. What the hell is going on? One of the crew asks. From the speakers a voice can be heard. Your presence has been detected. Time to accountability. Time to judgment. Time to... The voice is quickly cut off as a ship in the distance explodes, causing Jane's heart to skip a beat. Elaine, that should have been a faster than light blast that killed us all too. She thinks, watching the drawn-out burst of light. The exploding core's 1 million suns worth of strange energy, floating as it turns to nothing, taking several seconds. The rippling appearing around it, rebounding numerous times, resembling an underwater cavitation bubble collapsing. Though in slow motion, the pure energy seems to fight being converted. Snapping out of her horror and shock, she frantically tries to raise the crew aboard the other ships over the quantum communicator, but there is no response. Her systems suddenly show the other ship's life support systems have deactivated and airlocks open. We need to get out of here. A voice cries. Jane sees emergency escape pods eject from her cruise ships. There are sudden bursts of energy in the medium and the pods crash into the large ghost vessel. Jane looks at the massive ship with tears in her eyes. I finally get our big find and we're all going to die out here. She thinks. ... Having boarded the Titan, Jane looks around and sees bodies everywhere preserved by the near-perfect vacuum of space. She makes her way to the bridge and takes a seat in the captain's chair. The computer activates and a hologram of a woman appears. Non-authorized personnel detected. By the laws of the Galactic Alliance of Races, I am obligated to detain you until my original crew can arrive to judge you. She says in a very proper tone. The heavy entrance doors slam shut, shaking the room as Jane gets a confused look. But the original crew is long dead, they aren't coming back. She thinks to herself. As she gets up, the lights in the room dim and she moves over to the navigation center to look at the files from just before the Titan vanished. A red light flashes as an alarm begins to go off. Unauthorized passenger has been detected, all hands to the bridge. This is not a drill, a monotone voice says over the intercom. The doors to the bridge open and 3 armed men in military armor of a style Jane hasn't seen before storm in, firing first. Jane flinches and the plasma balls vanish on impact with the men as she falls on her back, tripping over one of the long dead and dried out bodies of the ship's former crew. Looking around the empty room, Jane almost assumes that she has severe space fever from being in the black too long. Until she looks down at her suit and sees that it is burned where the plasma shots hit. She climbs to her feet as Blaze enters the room looking spooked. We're not alone here. The doors slam shut as a computerized voice begins to talk. Restrain the hostiles, activate full lockdown, prepare for purge in 5 minutes. It says as another armored man walks through the door behind him. Blaze turns around and swings at the figure, who turns to smoke and reforms, striking with his rifle. Its stock connects with Blaze's visor, knocking him to the ground, and the armored man vanishes like the others, Blaze's helmet leaking air profusely. The ship's alarm sounds. Activate full lockdown, prepare for purge in 5 minutes. It says again. A vision flashes through Jane's mind. Without thinking, she says, Omega-2 protocol, override lockdown. Voice print confirmed. Releasing door locks. Welcome aboard. Paranormal Response Unit 001, anomaly detected. Sorry for any inconvenience, Sergeant Major Jane. It says. The doors open, as screens come online showing the long hallway just outside the door with several others connecting to it. Lights flicker on as the power is requested. The walls, scratched from claws, bullets and plasma bolts from energy rifles now laying void of energy next to most of the bodies of the former crew. Suddenly a jet black wolf the size of a Chevy S10 from the 2000s walks into the doorway. It has been a while since anyone living has been here. I am Shadow King of the Demon Wolf tribe. I know who you are. Things will be clear soon if I am right. I see you have both met some of the traitors that joined the darkness of hell. The wolf demon says, looking at the burn marks on Jane's suit. How do you know me? Jane asks as she gets out her plasma rifle. We will have time for stories later, but we must hurry. The wolf demon tribe has not taken sides in the Great War. But we know hell has been preparing something, and I fear it is near the time where they shall launch their full assault on Earth and its heavens. Blaze turns up the strength and speed of his bionic suit, then dashes forward at 50 miles per hour, taking a swing at the strange demonic-looking creature. Shadow Wolf vanishes as he moves at 35,000 miles per hour and reappears behind Blaze. We don't have time for this, my king, Shadow says to him. A swirling purple hole appears in the middle of the room as a large shadowy figure steps out of it. Yes, we do, the dark figure says, shrinking to the size of a teenager. Hi there, I'm Meliadar, he says, smiling. He then continues, just bear with us on this, okay? There is a demon portal out here and they are trying to move it back to Earth. Took them a long time to find this ship. It's the only ship that can get to this place, then back to the universe, carrying the portal with it. He pauses to make sure they understand. Then continues. So far they only figured out how to warp the ship and roam its halls, waiting for Shadow Seed and his wife. They plan on forcing them to return the portal to Earth. They are the ones that moved it and powered the ship to do it. Jane and Blaze stare at him, confused and unsure what to think. The large wolf shakes his head. We want you to join us against Hell and the demons who plan to take over the world. Jane and Blaze ready their weapons as they seem to be deciding whether or not they can trust them. Jane lowers her energy rifle. I say we trust them, she tells Blaze. Blaze, hesitant at first, lowering his own rifle. All right, but if you try anything, you die, he says. Once they agree to it, Meliadar looks at them. If you want to join us, we can provide you with all the power you need to fight them. Sort of anyway, just pick up any rifle off the floor. He picks one up looking at it. Meliadar grins. There's just a tiny bit of energy left inside, but it'll activate and charge itself. The energy is different than what those guns you have use. Better against demons and other creatures, he says as the energy rifle whirs to life in his hand. Blaze looks around and finds a rifle next to the mummified body of a commander that was ripped in half. Picking up the gun, he glances at the name tags, one printed on the shirt itself. Shadow Seed, in small letters. And a pin on simply reading, Blaze. The energy rifle seems to buzz in his hand. Feels like energy inside it is connecting to him as he has 100 visions in the blink of an eye. The energy of the rifle carrying information it shares with him. He sees Shadow Seed fighting through hordes of demon bugs. He sees colored demonic creatures flying through the massive halls. Sees himself fight. He sees hell. He sees the man behind the curtain. Wow, he says as suddenly he realizes why he is there. Blaze looks down at his body from the last life he lived and looks back to Meliadar as Jane grabs a weapon from the floor as well. Looking at the Titan's quantum radar, they see millions of signatures approaching as there are several hull breaches that make the massive starship shudder. Hull breach in sectors 05, 11, 15, 32, 57, 89, 93, 110 and 170 through 177. The computerized voice says over the speakers. Blaze, Jane, Meliadar and Shadow rush towards the closest hull breach and prepare for a fight. The ship's alarm blares. The thin splatters and streaks of blood on the bright white of almost every surface as the lights come on. Blaze gags slightly. I thought it was just dark walls. Looking down the 20-foot wide by 15-foot high hull, Jane sees several grotesque demons that appear. Blaze shooting through the hull, he fires his rifle at a creature that looks like a large baboon covered in blood. Its long claws and fangs along with piercing red eyes unnerving him. The rifle's plasma bounces. RAAA. Blaze shouts frustrated that the weapon isn't working. Suddenly the rifle seems to draw power from somewhere, firing a shot more powerful than the others that rips through a demon and out the back of the ship. Moving like the molten copper of a shaped charge. Heavy bulkheads drop in place, sealing the last sector off, saving the vessel from decompression. Jane notices a small blue circle on the floor. Blaze, get away from that, she says as she shoots a demon charging towards him only a few feet away. The creature vanishes as its arm is blown off and it hits the wall, spraying blood. Blaze jumps over the circle as he turns, shooting the demon rising out of it to pieces. What the hell is that? He says as he notices another circle. It's a portal to hell, Meliadar says as he shoots the last demon through the halls. Looking at the circle, black encrusted with dried blood, Jane notices it glowing faintly blue. We need to go, she says as two large clawed hands reach from inside the portal. The hands seem to feed the portal energy and force it to expand as a 7-foot-tall humanoid demon looks down at everyone. Meliadar steps back shakily but then charges forward, gathering dark purple energy for a punch. Shadow Wolf fires a powerful energy bolt attack from his mouth that hits the figure just before Meliadar lands his strike. The blast explodes on the demon with a 5-foot radius containing the equivalent of a 5,000-pound bomb blast. The Demon Wolf King localizing the blast damage with a small shockwave traveling the halls. Meliadar flies into the billowing smoke and steam, landing his blow with similar power, clearing the lingering smoke and ethereal energy away as the walls bend from the shockwave. The figure laughs as he grabs Meliadar by the wrist before he can pull away and lands a hard hit to his gut. Stumbling back, Meliadar throws a slower punch and the demon grabs his arm, throwing him toward the back of the ship. Meliadar watches another bulkhead seal as he is far outside and through the last one before the breach Blaze made. Well, that didn't work too well, he thinks as he looks around the ship's hull and into the open featureless nothing. Why does this place seem so familiar? Almost like when stuck in the dark void as a soul, he thinks, shaking off the thought. recovers himself in energy and crashes back through a barrier and passes another door that seals behind him as he grins at Velzix. If your plan is to use the ship to get the portal back to Earth, destroying it will just help us, he says, laughing. The Demon King smiles as he looks down at the others, then back to Meliadar as he lands in front of him. Blaze fires his rifle at the demon, who casually swats the energy bolts back at him. He is about to be hit when Jane deflects the plasma with her own shots, showing off her accuracy. Shadow Wolf, having vanished, blends back into view. Around him are 3 floating balls of energy that glow purple and rocket forward like homing spears at the demon. The first bounces off the Dark King's hand as he tries to catch it, the second hits his leg, the third hits his stomach, burning small holes in him as dark energy starts healing the wounds. You really think you can kill me with such things? He chuckles. And you too. You ruined everything. You will be our king and queen again, and you will help us take the portal back to Earth. He stops, growing angry as he looks at them. He points at Blaze and Jane angrily. I hate the responsibility of this position. Shadow smirks. Velzix, we won't allow you to succeed or lead you again. Velzix grins. You don't have to. He shouts, rushing forward, landing a hard blow to the demon wolf's neck. It lets out a sharp yelp, dropping to the floor, its paws twitching. Blaze looks at Jane. We might have to take this loss, he says, and she nods. Self-destruct the ship. He hugs her close. Only way. Jane returns his hug. Then both say the 5-second delayed self-destruct phrase. Titan, Sequence 05 SD, Shadow 1/2, authorized as defense has failed. Until the next life. They look at each other. I love you, they say together. The others grab Velzix tightly. Meliadar grins through his effort. You're coming with us this time, and your precious portal will never see Earth again, he shouts. Able to sense his coming doom unlike the rest, but just as powerless to escape even unhindered. Velzix fumes, seeing the expanding white hot ball equal to 500 billion suns worth of strange energy. I was so close to not being beaten, he thinks. As the sphere envelops the ship, Blaze and Jane embrace in a kiss, seemingly frozen compared to the glowing mass of energy as it expands 200 times faster than light. The explosion reaches the ship's outer warp field, then doubles back on itself, rebounding like a cavitation bubble. As the light dissipates, nothing remains of the Titan but its bluish-white glowing warp core hanging in the nothingness. Dot dot. Dot dot. Dot dot. Dot dot. Velzix smashes his fist into the ground as he awakens in purgatory, far weaker than before. That is the last time. Maybe drastic steps needed taken, he says to himself, looking around. He grabs a demon and rips its head off in anger. Walking to his castle, he thinks of how to repay the setback. Fools, weakened my power, but they lost the war, he cackles in victory. It was a long shot, but the energy of the self-destruct sequence opened the portal. Now we just have to find it again. Dot dot. Dot dot. Dot dot. 10 years after the Titan's explosive end. Blaze, along with the others, being immediately reincarnated onto Earth Murim, having taken similar forms and age as on the Titan. Dot. 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 The cool night air not helping the mood. Blaze looks at Meliadar. You don't tell your mother. Tell me what? That the portal was supposed to be in this universe, not outside it, she says from behind him. Blaze winces. Hey, at least it was both of us. We both needed to say the phrase. Meliadar speaks up. No, we all did it. I didn't know it was also where the dark void was either. The source of dark energy. Also where our mind gets trapped if possessed by a demon. Who woulda known? The universes are surrounded by infinite nothingness, full of demons and godly beings in various dimensions or whatever. Possibly anyway, he says, looking at the night sky. Jane frowns. That might explain why we couldn't be without an energy field and the cores worked harder, keeping our reality together without physical reality around it. Ruby shakes her head. Sounds plausible. It's a spiritual space with no real location, dark, formless, non-living potential energy from the nothingness. And we were physical objects in that place. She pauses, then asks, what has the military been doing on Earth for them to be able to send physical and living things into the metaphysical space, and why? Blaze shrugs. Maybe that's why we were put on Murim again. Is the usual reincarnate near when the issue needs fixed? He smirks. They all nod in agreement. The King of Redemption and his family look up at the sky, conversing about the kingdom and things to come, an unseen, unnoticed presence watching. Dot. Dot. Dot.
Incoming, incoming, incoming.